Some people can control your decisions without you even realizing it. They can make you doubt yourself, make you feel guilty, make you apologize, even when you did nothing wrong. And the worst part, most people walk through life being manipulated every single day. At work, in relationships, even by friends. They push your emotions, twist your thoughts, and slowly turn you into someone who always says yes. But here's the truth most people will never tell you. Manipulators are not powerful. They're only powerful when you are unaware. The moment you understand their tactics, the moment you learn a few psychological skills, their power disappears completely. In this video, I'm going to show you 5 dangerous skills that mentally strong people use to make manipulation impossible. These are the same mental principles used by Stoic philosophers, elite negotiators, and psychologically aware individuals. Once you master them, people will no longer control your emotions. They will no longer twist your decisions. And they will never again make you feel small. So pay close attention, because the third skill alone will completely change the way you deal with manipulative people. But before we begin, comment below. Have you ever realized someone manipulated you after the situation was already over? And if you want to learn more about mental strength, stoicism, and psychological power, subscribe to this channel. And watch the next videos on your screen. It will help you become mentally untouchable. Before we talk about the first skill, you need to understand something uncomfortable. Manipulation doesn't start with lies. It starts with emotions. Most people think manipulation is about someone forcing you to do something. But real manipulation is much more subtle than that. It happens when someone pushes your emotional buttons so perfectly that you react without thinking. They trigger your guilt, they provoke your anger, they pressure your fear of disappointing others. And once your emotions take over, your logic disappears. That is the moment manipulators gain control. But there is one powerful skill that instantly weakens their influence. A skill practiced by Stoic philosophers for thousands of years. A skill that mentally strong people train every single day. And once you develop it, something interesting happens. People stop being able to control you. Because the first skill is emotional control. The fastest way someone can manipulate you is through your emotions. Think about the last time you got into an argument. Maybe someone raised their voice. Maybe they accused you of something unfair. Maybe they pushed you until you reacted emotionally. And in that moment, you probably said something you didn't mean. Or made a decision you later regretted. This is exactly what manipulators want. Because when emotions rise, clear thinking disappears. They want you angry. They want you defensive. They want you rushed. Because emotional reactions make you predictable. And predictable people are easy to control. This single habit creates a powerful psychological advantage. When someone tries to provoke them, they stay calm. When someone tries to guilt them, they remain neutral. When someone attempts to pressure them, they refuse to rush. And suddenly the manipulator loses their biggest weapon: your reaction. Stoic philosophy teaches a simple but powerful principle. You cannot control what people say. You cannot control what people do, but you can always control how you respond. And your response determines your power. Imagine someone insults you. Most people immediately react. They argue. They defend themselves. They escalate the situation. But someone with emotional control does something different. They pause. They breathe. They think. And sometimes, they choose silence. Silence confuses manipulators, because they expected a reaction. Without that reaction, their strategy collapses. This is why emotional discipline is one of the most powerful mental skills you can develop. It allows you to stay calm when others panic. It allows you to think clearly when others react emotionally. And most importantly, it prevents other people from controlling your behavior. Because once you control your emotions, nobody else can control you. Most manipulators don't attack you directly. They study you first. They observe what triggers you. Maybe you hate being misunderstood. Maybe you feel uncomfortable when people are angry. Maybe you have a strong need to be liked. Once they discover these emotional triggers, they start using them against you. For example, they might say, "Why are you being so selfish?" Or, "I guess I just expected more from you." Or even worse, "I thought you cared." Notice something interesting. These sentences are not direct commands, but they are designed to create guilt. And guilt is one of the strongest emotional tools manipulators use. Because guilty people become easier to control, they start over-explaining themselves. They try to fix things that were never their responsibility. They start saying yes just to make the discomfort go away. But someone with emotional control reacts very differently. Instead of absorbing the emotion immediately, they create space between the trigger and the response. This space is where power lives. Psychologists call this the pause of awareness. It's the moment when you stop reacting automatically and start thinking consciously. And even a few seconds of pause can completely change the outcome of a situation. Imagine someone accusing you unfairly. Most people would immediately defend themselves emotionally. But a mentally disciplined person might simply ask, "Why do you think that?" Or even remain silent. And suddenly the dynamic changes. The manipulator expected an emotional reaction. Instead, they face calmness. Calmness is extremely difficult to manipulate, because calm people are thinking clearly. This is why Stoic thinkers practiced emotional discipline every day. They trained themselves to expect criticism, to expect conflict, to expect difficult situations, not because they wanted negativity, but because preparation reduces emotional shock. When you are mentally prepared, manipulation loses its surprise factor. And without surprise, manipulation loses its power. This is also why emotionally strong people are often misunderstood. Others might call them cold or distant, or unbothered, but the truth is much simpler. They are not controlled by emotions in the moment. They feel emotions, but they do not allow emotions to control their decisions. And that distinction changes everything. Because once you master emotional control, something remarkable happens. Manipulators begin to avoid you, not because you are aggressive, but because you are unpredictable to them. Their emotional tricks no longer work. The guilt tactics no longer affect you. Their pressure no longer forces your decisions. And slowly, people start realizing something about you. You are not easy to control anymore. Now here's the uncomfortable truth most people never realize. Controlling your emotions is powerful, but it doesn't mean manipulation will stop. Because some manipulators don't rely on emotional explosions. They rely on deception. They smile while they control you. They compliment you while they use you. They pretend to support you while they quietly push you in the direction they want. And if you're only listening to what people say, you will miss what they're actually doing. That's the dangerous part. Manipulators don't reveal their intentions through words. They reveal them through patterns. And once you learn to see those patterns, something powerful happens. You stop being fooled by appearances. You start seeing people for who they truly are. Which brings us to the second skill that makes manipulation almost impossible. The ability to read hidden intentions. Most people judge others by their words. But words are the easiest thing in the world to fake. Anyone can sound kind. Anyone can sound supportive. Anyone can say exactly what you want to hear. But words mean very little if they don't match behavior. This is where mentally strong people operate differently. They watch patterns, not promises. They pay attention to actions, not compliments. For example, someone might constantly say they care about you. But when you need support, they disappear. Someone might praise you in public, but quietly undermine you in private. Someone might act friendly, but only when they need something from you. These contradictions reveal something important: their true intentions. Manipulators depend on one weakness in human psychology: our desire to believe people's words. We want to trust people. We want to assume good intentions. And while optimism can be beautiful, it can also make you vulnerable. Mentally strong individuals balance trust with awareness. They observe how people behave over time. They notice patterns that repeat. For example, watch for people who constantly play the victim. Nothing is ever their fault. They blame everyone else, and somehow, they always end up making you feel responsible for their problems. Another common pattern is the guilt manipulator. They say things like, "I guess I'll just do it myself," or, "Forget it, I didn't expect you to help anyway." These statements are designed to trigger guilt without making a direct request. It's manipulation disguised as disappointment. And once you learn to recognize these tactics, something interesting happens. Their tricks stop working, because awareness breaks manipulation. You start seeing the hidden message behind their words. You begin asking yourself important questions. What does this person gain from this situation? Why are they saying this right now? Does their behavior match their words? These simple questions create mental clarity. And clarity destroys manipulation, because manipulators rely on confusion. They rely on emotional fog. But when your mind becomes sharp and observant, you become extremely difficult to control. People may still try to manipulate you. But now you can see it happening in real time. And once you see manipulation clearly, you are no longer its victim. Now here's where many people get trapped. Some people can control their emotions. Some people can even recognize manipulation. But they still fall into the same trap. Why? Because awareness alone is not enough. You can clearly see someone trying to pressure you, trying to guilt you, trying to push you into something you don't want to do, and yet, you still say yes. Not because you want to, but because saying no feels uncomfortable. You don't want to disappoint them. You don't want to create tension. You don't want to seem rude. And manipulators know this. They look for people who struggle with one simple word, no, which brings us to the third skill that completely destroys manipulation. The power of saying no. Many people believe manipulation happens because someone is stronger, smarter, or more persuasive. But most of the time, manipulation works for a much simpler reason. People are afraid to say no. They say yes to things they don't want. They agree to favors they can't afford. They accept treatment they don't deserve. Not because they are weak, but because they were raised to believe that being polite means always being agreeable. Manipulators recognize this instantly. They test boundaries. They push a little further each time. And if you keep saying yes, they learn something about you. You are easy to control. But mentally strong people understand something powerful. Saying no is not disrespect. It is self-respect. You don't owe everyone your time. You don't owe everyone your energy. And you certainly don't owe anyone your peace. Sometimes the most powerful response in the world is simple and calm. No. No long explanation. No guilt. No apology. Just clarity. Because the moment you become comfortable saying no, manipulators lose one of their strongest weapons. Now listen carefully, because this is where manipulation becomes dangerous. Some manipulators don't pressure you. They do something far more subtle. They slowly make you doubt yourself. They question your judgment. They challenge your decisions. They make you feel like you always need their opinion before doing anything. And if you're not careful, something happens. You stop trusting your own mind. You start looking to them for answers. And the moment that happens, they gain influence over your thinking. Because a person who doubts themselves is easy to control. But mentally strong people develop a powerful defense against this tactic. They learn to think independently. Manipulators rely on one psychological weakness: your need for approval. They want you to seek validation. They want you to question your instincts. They want you to believe that their perspective is always smarter than yours. This is how influence slowly turns into control. But people who think independently break this pattern. They don't blindly accept opinions. They don't instantly follow advice. They listen, but they analyze. They observe, but they question. Independent thinkers ask simple but powerful questions. Is this actually true? Does this make sense for my life? What does this person gain if I believe them? These questions create mental clarity. And clarity protects you from influence. Because once you start thinking for yourself, manipulation becomes extremely difficult. People can give you opinions. They can offer suggestions, but they cannot control your conclusions. And that is real power. Because when your mind belongs to you, no one else can take control of it. Here is something most people never realize. Manipulators are not always obvious. Sometimes they appear as friends. Sometimes as co-workers. You don't understand how the world works. At first, it sounds reasonable. But over time, the message becomes clear. They want you to depend on their thinking instead of trusting your own. This is how influence slowly turns into authority. And once someone becomes the authority in your mind, they can guide your choices without forcing you. But independent thinkers break this cycle immediately. They don't reject advice blindly. They simply refuse to surrender their judgment. They gather information from different perspectives. They analyze situations calmly. They take time before making decisions. And most importantly, they understand one powerful truth. No one understands your life better than you. Not your friends. Not strangers. Not even people who believe they know what's best for you. When you develop independent thinking, something changes inside you. You stop chasing approval. You stop seeking permission. You stop letting other people decide what is right for your life. And the moment that shift happens, manipulators lose their influence, because they can pressure your emotions. They can twist their words. But they cannot control a mind that thinks for itself. Now we arrive at the final skill. And this one might be the most powerful of them all, because even if you control your emotions, even if you recognize manipulation, there is still one thing manipulators look for: your emotional attachment. The more emotionally dependent you are on someone, the easier it becomes for them to control you. If someone controls your happiness, your validation, or your sense of worth, they can influence your decisions without forcing you. And this is exactly why the fifth skill is so powerful. It protects your inner peace from other people's control. This skill is called emotional detachment. Emotional detachment does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop allowing other people to control your emotional balance. Most manipulation works because people are afraid of losing something. They're afraid of losing approval. They're afraid of losing a relationship. They're afraid of conflict. So they tolerate behavior that slowly drains their peace. But emotionally detached people operate differently. They value their inner stability more than external approval. They listen to criticism without immediately reacting. They observe conflict without letting it control their mood. They accept that not everyone will understand them. And they are comfortable walking away from situations that disturb their peace. This creates a powerful psychological shift. When someone tries to manipulate them with guilt, it fails. When someone tries to pressure them emotionally, it fails. When someone tries to provoke them, it fails. Because their emotional state does not depend on other people's reactions. Stoic thinkers believed something simple but powerful. If you depend on others for your peace, you will always be vulnerable. But if your peace comes from within, no one can take it away. And this is why emotional detachment is such a powerful defense. When you are calm within yourself, you stop chasing approval. You stop fearing rejection. And you stop allowing people to control your decisions. Because true strength begins the moment your peace no longer depends on anyone else. If you master these 5 skills, your life will change. You'll stop reacting emotionally, see people's true intentions, and manipulation will no longer work on you. Mental strength grows through awareness, practice, and discipline. Start applying these skills today and notice the difference. Comment below your thoughts, experiences, or which skill you find hardest. If you found this valuable, subscribe to this channel for more psychological mastery. And now, Click the next video on your screen to learn habits that make people mentally unstoppable.